Hey, what's up YouTube? In this video, I'll be showing you how to make your very own cemetery for all of your city building needs. Now, I don't do this very often, ladies and gentlemen, but I would highly recommend this. Last week, I made a church, and the reason that I have made the graveyard very shortly after the church is because these two builds, in my mind, go roughly hand in hand. Quite often times, where there is a church, there usually isn't a graveyard too far away. Now, this isn't the case every single time. There's plenty of cases where these two are mutually exclusive. You don't need one with the other, but for city building purposes and designing purposes, I would highly recommend putting these two very close together, if not connected. So you could have them across the street from each other, kind of how I have them now, or you could quite easily, and you can see they're literally the same size, you could adjoin it onto the church on the front, back, or any of the sides if you wanted to. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen, but one more thing, if you do enjoy this tutorial, please do remember to hit that like button, as it really helps me and the channel out very much, and you'll be able to find the church in the card system and the description below. By the way, just in case you did want to do that, the tutorial is already out. Feel free to do that if you like, it's completely up to you. The amount of space required to make the build is a 23 by 31 block area, as represented by the white concrete grid that you can see on the ground. Please feel free to make this grid in your world if you do feel as though it will help you out, and honestly, I would highly encourage it if you are planning out your very own city. Here are all of the materials required to make the build. Please do make sure that you have access to all of those materials and enough of them as well. So now that we have all of our stuff, we can get started. To begin, come all the way to the front left hand corner of your grid, if you've made it. We're going to start off by placing a light grey concrete on the corner. And right of that, place 8 diorite wall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right of the 8th block, I want you to place a light grey concrete. Place 2 wall on top. 1, 2. Place polished diorite slabs on top of that. Right of all of this, place iron bars, including next to the slab at the top. Extend the iron bars to the right by 2, 1, 2, and then extend down to the ground, like this. Then, from the ground to the right, we want to place a light grey concrete, 2 diorite wall on top of each other, and a polished diorite slab on top. This is to mimic what we have just to the left of us. What we then want to do is very simple. Basically, we just want to extend diorite wall all the way around the grid that we have placed for the graveyard. And on the corners of the grid, we simply want to place light grey concrete. So, light grey concrete on the corners, and of course next to the entrance, which we have already made, and then we want to have diorite wall connecting it all together, similar to what we did for the church just next to us. So the little difference that we are going to do between this and the church is the fact that on the corners of the graveyard, we are going to place ourselves a diorite wall, and then we are going to place iron bars along the top of the diorite wall. Not in the corner, of course, but along the pre-existing long rows of diorite. So we want to extend the corner blocks upwards with a diorite wall, and then iron bars all the way along across the diorite wall that we have already placed. So this is going to make the outer boundary for the cemetery. And we're also going to place a polished diorite slab on each one of the 4 corners as well. And this is pretty much going to conclude the outer part of the graveyard. So this is pretty much like the outside part made now. And now that we've done that, we can actually move on to the fun part, which almost sounds a little bit weird when we're talking about graveyards, right? I mean, building a graveyard, is it supposed to be fun? Well, it kind of was actually. It was kind of fun designing it, although that does sound a little bit weird. It's, a little bit morbid. What can you do? Come to the front left-hand corner of your graveyard. We're looking for the empty space inward diagonally from this corner here. We want to move right one, and then inwards 1, 2, 3. This is where the first gravestone is going to be. I'm going to make mine out of stone brick stairs, but you can use any variety of stairs. So I'm going to place a stone brick stairs sideways, and then the exact same thing just to the right of it opposite. I'm going to leave a gap of 1, and then we're going to do the same thing using polished diorite. I'm going to leave a gap of 1, and then I'm going to do the same thing using polished blackstone. So, just like this, 3 graves next to each other. Feel free to chop and change the kinds of stairs, and I'm going to show you how to make a different style of grave as well. So, right of where we have the blackstone stairs, we're going to leave a gap of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on this 5th block, we're going to place a row of 3 diorite wall. 1, 2, 3, extending up from the ground. Then we're going to take the middle block and extend it left and right. So that's a different style of grave that you can make. And we're also going to leave another gap of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on this 5th block, I'm going to place a stone brick wall, chiseled stone bricks, stone brick wall, and then extend the chiseled stone bricks left and right. And again, that's just another style of grave one can make. So, now that we've done that, I'm going to have another set of graves. This set of graves, I'm going to start by coming all the way over to the left, and I'm going to have a set of graves. Basically, they're going to be parallel to this set, except they are going to be 4 rows in between each other. So I'm actually, the first grave that I'm going to make is a polished diorite. I'm going to leave a gap of 1, 2, 3, and 4. So on this 5th block, I'm going to place another headstone, a tombstone like this, and then I'm going to leave a gap of 1, and I'm going to place a blackstone tombstone, then a gap of 1, and I'm going to then place a stone brick stairs tombstone. So just like this. I'm then going to leave a gap of 3. 1, 2, 3, and then this 4th row, I'm actually going to repeat that exact same pattern, except it's going to be mirrored. So again, I'm going to have stone bricks, gap of 1, blackstone, gap of 1, and then I'm going to have diorite, and that's of course gap of 1, just like this. Alternatively, you can have more of the crosses if you like. You can even, I'm going to show you how to make a couple of different things around the graveyard. It's not all this particular, but it seemed quite nice to have all of this condensed together. So this seemed to just kind of like flow together rather well. Anyway, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to come back to the gravestone, all the way over on the left, the diorite one, and we're going to leave a gap of 3. So in the ground, a gap of 1, 2, 3. And in this 4th block, we're going to need something else. We're going to use polished blackstone, wall, and chiseled blackstone. So we're going to place polished blackstone brick wall, chiseled polished blackstone, wall on top, and extend left and right. So same sort of idea as the crosses over there, but it's facing this way. So we're going to need oak fence as well, and I'm going to leave a gap of 3. So 1, 2, 3. In this 4th row, I'm going to have 3 oak fence on top of each other, and then I'm going to extend the middle block left and right, just like this. So again, same sort of idea, facing a different way, using a different material. Looks quite good. So still going backwards, by the way, I want you now to leave a gap of 5, so leaving a gap of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This 6th block here, and I do want to make sure that I use the correct materials and I grab them, we're going to place a chiseled stone brick. Now, right to the chiseled stone brick, coming across this way, we're going to place 2 polished diorite wall, chiseled stone brick behind. We're going to use upside down stone brick stairs, and we're going to extend the chisel block backwards. And then I'm going to place a chisel block, 2 upside down stone brick stairs, chiseled brick, and then across the back, 2 upside down stone brick stairs, my bad, chiseled brick. Well, I'm just not doing very well here, am I? So just like this, chisel brick on the end, and then I want the same row as I have on that opposite side, so 2 upside down stairs, chiseled brick, upside down stairs, and then you can fill the center of this in with whatever you like. I'm going to use polished diorite slabs, I think, just because it kind of fits with the stairs. So what do we need to make the rest of this? It's comprised of quite a few blocks, to be quite honest. It needs diorite wall, polished diorite slab, iron doors, lanterns, and then cobblestone, stone bricks, cracked stone bricks, that sort of material right there, really. You can even chuck in a couple of chiseled stone bricks, but you don't need to. So, we want to take the middle set of chiseled bricks and we want to place a row of 3 stone bricks on them. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 like this. We're going to place 3 rows of some variety of stone blocks extending backwards and joining at the back in kind of like a horseshoe U-shape like this. The doors to this are going to be iron doors, and above them are also going to be some variety of brick. I believe that you might call this a crypt or a mausoleum, something like that. But the gist of this is basically or a tomb maybe, I don't know. But the idea is that inside of this would be like the coffin or urns or what have you of a particular family. I don't know the correct terminology, but maybe you guys do. I don't know. So on the 2 outward corner chiseled bricks, I want you to place 2 diorite wool on top of each. I want you to place polished diorite slabs between them and join them back to the tomb. I'm just going to call it the tomb for easiness sake. We want to create a little roof, so this is going to be 2 rows of diorite slabs, one on one side and one on the other, extending front to back, hanging 1 row off. And then we extend them in and up until eventually they join together at the top. So this is going to be present on both sides, the front and the back like this. And it gives you this very, very simple effect. The lanterns are basically just here next to the doors, adds a little bit of a vibe. And then we're just going to fill in the roof using the diorite slabs. You don't have to be too precise if you don't want to. You can be a little bit messy. It's not a big deal because what I would also recommend doing, and this is why we have the other blocks, is you can destroy part of the wall if you like, and you can place like stone bricks, cracked stone bricks. You can place a little bit of cobble there, maybe even a little bit of diorite if you want to. You know, really make it your own sort of, really just like chop and change. Make it look a little bit more interesting by adding a variety of blocks, and it'll just look a little bit better this way. It really will. I mean, if again, you can even like add in like a slab or so here and there. Like it doesn't have to look perfect, and as a matter of fact, it'll look a lot more worn and realistic if it doesn't. If you are bothered by the fact that there's nothing in there, I wouldn't even recommend being able to get in here, but you could make kind of like a coffin looking thing out of any sort of trapdoor will do. I'd recommend spruce or dark oak trapdoors, and I'd place them in this sort of manner. So if you were to place something here, right, like 2 solid blocks, and then you place the trapdoors on the outside and also on top, that'd actually be perfect. You could even put some flowers in here or something similar as you will. But again, that'll actually do, and that looks pretty nice. It's a cool feature of the cemetery. So what do we have to do next? Believe it or not, there's not a massive amount of structures that we need to make. It should be relatively simple. So the next thing that I want to make is the water fountain in the center of the graveyard. Now this thing is made out of predominantly, we need some chiseled stone bricks, we need some polished diorite stairs, we need some polished diorite slabs, we need weighted pressure plates, we need stone brick wall, we need water buckets, we need buttons, and I do want to say that that's it. I mean, because that is quite a lot of materials, isn't it? But okay, so how do we position it? It's relatively easy, actually. These inward pair of stone brick headstones, you want to leave a gap of 3, 1, 2, 3, extending backwards, and then place a chiseled stone brick. So gap of 1, 2, 3, 4th block, chiseled stone brick. And then you can even leave a gap of 3 between those, and then you can place another chiseled stone brick. So they are placed evenly in a square 4 rows apart. You'll even notice that they, funnily enough, almost as if someone designed it this way, they line up with these tombstones that we have on the left and right, if you can kind of see from there. Okay, how do we connect all of this together in a nice, easy, good looking way? We want to place upside down diorite wall extending inwards on each side with a regular one in the middle. Easy peasy. That's all you got to do. I mean, would you like to make it more complicated? Feel free. I actually think it's quite a nice little design. It's nice and understated. It's quite simple. It's not trying to look too crazy. I really like it. You can fill the bottom of it in with any material that you want. I'm heavily considering diorite just because it's a nice bright material. Feel free to use any other material that you like though. In the center of this, chiseled stone brick, 4 stone brick wall on top of it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take the block 1 away from the top and extend left and right just like this. Place weighted pressure plates on top of the upside down stairs that we have all over the place. So there should be 8 of those in total. Polish diorite slabs on each one of the 4 corners, like this. And then if you want to spice it up even more, you can place some buttons on each one of the 4 corners as well. So instead of just the chiseled bricks, we can have this. And again, I just quite like the design of it. It's a lot of nice different shades of white and grey. Has to be filled in with water as well, by the way. I don't know why that's not being placed. Oh, that's why. My bad. I guess that we've got to... It's because we placed slabs instead of solid blocks, so it's being a little bit temperamental. If we place it around here, though, that should actually even out, I think. If we, place it directly onto the center, and then there we go. I wondered where that water was disappearing to. It's like, water's turned on, right? As if, I don't think you can even turn it off. I don't think that's even a thing. But anyways. So, just opposite the water fountain, we also have an additional feature. Now, when it comes to this additional feature, it's as long as the water fountain, it's to the right of it. I'm not sure I mentioned that. I think I said opposite, but it's to the right of it. You leave a gap of 3, so 1, 2, 3, and then you place a chiseled brick, gap of 1, chiseled brick. Do the same from the opposite end of the fountain, so gap of 1, 2, 3, 4th block chiseled brick, gap of 1, chiseled brick. Upside down, I do want to make sure that I get this correct because I have a feeling that we... I think that we're actually going to use, instead of a diorite stairs, we're going to use some stone brick stairs so that it's not quite the same as the fountain. We're going to join this all together, just upside down all the way around, just like this. And then we're going to fill in the chiseled bricks using the stone slabs, just like this. And this is, I don't know the different varieties of coffins and all of that, and caskets and all of the different types of graves. But essentially, this is one where it's kind of like almost above ground, like it's a big giant concrete rectangle, and I'm sure that you might have seen these perhaps either in real life, which would be unfortunate, but maybe in movies or TV shows or something. But anyway, we want to take the center of this, fill it in with polished diorite slabs, extend the slabs upwards. I want you to place weighted pressure plates along the left and right sides and on the front and the back, basically on top of the stairs blocks, essentially. And then we're going to leave it like that. Later on, we will decorate this a little bit further, but for now, that will do. I promise it will look a little bit better once we add a sign and we add some flowers to it as well. So, we are missing just 2 key features of the graveyard so far. So these are rather important and they do have quite a big impact. For these next key features, let's grab what we need before we actually need it. That might be handy for once. We're going to use diorite slabs, we're going to use diorite wall, and we're going to use dark oak logs and spruce leaves. So, the way that we place this next particular feature, and this is basically like a grave marker, you take the middle of the back of the fountain, which is here, this is middle block, this stairs, and you leave a gap of 7, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then on this 8th block here, we place a polished diorite slab, extend left and right. Behind this, you place a solid polished diorite block. Behind this, you place a row of slabs again. We take the middle of this, we place 3 wall on top, 1, 2, 3, and then we extend the middle block left and right. You can make it higher if you want, but at the risk of making it as tall as this, I didn't actually want to do that. So for this next part, we're basically just going to make a dark tree in the back right hand corner. So that's why I have dark oak logs and spruce leaves specifically, because I think they kind of go together. And I'm just going to make in this kind of like back right corner. It doesn't even have to be placed specifically on a particular block, and it doesn't have to be made in a specific way. As a matter of fact, because it's a tree, it's a little bit better if it is placed a little bit differently, and I'm going to have the roots embedded in the ground a little bit too. But basically somewhere in this back right corner, because you'll notice that there's a little bit of a gap in this corner here, you just want to arrange some dark oak logs, make them all messy, make a trunk, and then basically maybe even like a branch just up at the top here. You could even place some leaves along the branch a little bit, and we're going to make a tree. So I don't know what else to say about this. This is much more an exercise in kind of like just messing about with some blocks, making it look good, rather than it is me trying to instruct you on how to like block for block make a tree, which is very, very difficult, or at least a random tree is difficult to do block by block. A tree that's like normal and kind of like well pruned and stuff, that's not so, that's pretty easy. But this one here is the exact opposite of that. It's just a nice unwieldy tree just here in the back corner. That's all there is to it, quite honestly. You could even make the roots look a little bit different from each other. That's all there is to it, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing else. That's it. Okay. That leaves us with this. So this actually looks really boring, right? I mean, not so boring. It's kind of like a well-kept cemetery. It looks quite nice. But what really improves this is the added extra details, okay? This is what really makes things happen. And we're going to need more materials than we have here. But just for now, we're going to use wooden shovels, podzol, flower pots. You can even use lanterns if you want. Might have a function for buttons as well. And that might be it. I don't think that we really... Oh, sometimes the weighted pressure plates look a little bit nice too. Maybe even the stone pressure plates. Okay, so in front of pretty much every grave, and you can use a variety of materials. You can use, let's say, podzol, and you can use like coarse dirt, and you can use soil if you like. You can even use grass path, although we're going to be using a lot of it. You could even use mycelium, but this is where it comes up to you, by the way. And beyond this, I'm going to kind of like leave it in your hands of what you want to grab for extra decorations. I will be giving you some ideas on what items you might want to use, but this is much more of an expressive exercise, this next part, so it's not mandatory. This is going to kind of like be how far you want to go with it. So in front of the graves, I'm going to recommend that you add, at the very least, some podzol. So the podzol can be uniform like this. It can be 2x2 squares. That's at the very least how big I would make them. There can be 2x2 squares, or you can, in front of these graves, you can mess it up a little bit. So instead of having like just a little patch of 2 podzol, you can mess it about a bit. You can use soil, you can use mycelium, you can use a mixture of them, you can use simply one or the other. Like when it comes to these graves, like we can have mycelium. This one, it could have a mixture of soil and podzol. This one could just be nice and standard. Like it doesn't really matter. So the more variety that you add, the better it might look. Again, this is why things are so... this is why I said that this is a little bit more expressive than anything else. Like, it's up to you. Do you want all of your graves to look the same? Would you like to add a lantern to a grave or so? Would you like to add some flower pots, whether they are filled or unfilled, to some of the graves? Would you like to add buttons to the chiseled graves? Would you like to add a couple of buttons to look like rocks around the grave? Would you like to use stone pressure plates to achieve a similar effect? Would you like to use, because sometimes there's like little plates and stuff that people leave by graves. I'm not quite sure what the significance of these might be, but I've seen them like little metal plates and stuff. I don't know what they could be, but would you like to put buttons on the graves as well? Again, this is all different. Like, you're gonna have to mess about with it, you're gonna have to play with it. And this is something that I should tell you as well also, is that I do want some flowers, because it's actually important for the center of the build. So let me I'll get rid of the lanterns for now. I'm going to place white tulips specifically around the middle of the fountain. Only the 3 middle blocks on the 3 sides though, so only in front of the stairs on the 3 sides. You'll see why. I'm going to have a row of grass, or a row of grass path I should say, leading from the middle of the entrance all the way to the fountain. Then I'm going to, as best I can, make a circle around the fountain. Once you have placed the flowers, and considering the fact that we have the buttons, the circle should look very similar to this. The back left-hand corner of the circle, if a circle has corners, we want to extend to the left a bit, and we want to join it to kind of like the little mausoleum thing that we have. We also want to join the path to the cross that we have, the grave marker in the back of the build. That will give us something which should look like this, which I think looks pretty cool. So now that we've done that, that was just an important little thing. I mean, what can we can even add the flowers to the pots if you like, but I'd add different flowers, quite honestly. You can even add them to the graves as well. You can place them to the graves if you want. We can mess up the area, like we can add soul soil around this particular area if you like. We can add some mycelium, like around parts that would be like lesser cared for, so like these areas where the grass path isn't, you might want to add a little bit of variance using different materials such as the pods or the mycelium. You can even use coarse dirt to name another. Like that's again, it's just really up to you. Like what do you want to do? I mean, this one could add a little bit more podzol than usual, perhaps, and a little bit of soul soil, make it all different colors. You don't have to. I feel as though that I should just keep saying it because I don't want to feel as though that you've got to do any of this. But another thing that you can do, so I'm just going to dump some materials, right? So we need some different flowers, that goes without saying, but we'll grab those later. But it's also nice perhaps if we use some item frames and if we use some cobwebs as well. I mean, I guess it's a bit sad to use cobwebs, of course, because that suggests that nobody really comes around the graves that often, but you know, I mean, it is what it is. We could use some of the sadder flowers, wither roses, crimson roots, warped roots. We can have some lily of the valley, we can have some oxeye daisies, we can have some alliums, maybe even some poppies. That makes, well, I don't have room for poppies, but you can lay some item frames on the graves if you like, and you can place flowers in them. You can place actual roots and stuff on the graves as well, so the warped roots and the crimson roots. You can have just regular flowers like on the podzol. You can have mushrooms if you like. You can have, again, I'm just going to lay a couple of item frames and some flowers around just about the place, really. So something else that I'm going to do as well is I'm going to add some vines to the to this area. So just a couple of flowers here, maybe like an item frame, maybe a couple of cobwebs, just kind of like sprinkled around. If you want to be mega morbid, you could even use skeleton skulls, but I think that might be a little bit of a step too far for me, so I'm not going to be doing that personally. But like the little mausoleum, like we can have some cobwebs here, we can hang vines off of it as well, so we can have some vines just hanging off the edge here. We can do the same for the tree here as well, make it look a little bit dilapidated. This I specifically would like a sign, so you know, here lies such and such is what would write on this sign. I'll just put RIP, but here lies such and such, it would make sense on there. In addition to that, actually, that's a good point. On each one of the four corners of this particular grave, again, I don't know the technical name for it, then we would want some flowers. Let's just make it easy. Let's have these four, and that'll really improve it quite a bit. Just like this. And honestly, ladies and gentlemen, no, I'm not adding the heads. You could make it a little bit spooky, actually, with the carved pumpkins and stuff, but I don't think that I'm going to. I think that we can actually just leave it at that. I think that that's pretty good. If you want it to look a little bit more uncapped, you can add a one or two bone meal towards the back of the cemetery. I wouldn't recommend it around the graves because it can mess with them a little bit, but other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I think that that's actually pretty good. I think that that's a nice level of detail for the graveyard. So this is what your graveyard will look like once it has been 100% fully completed, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you have enjoyed this build. This is probably one of the more customizable builds that I've made, and I almost kind of feel bad for saying this. It's kind of like been one of the more fun builds to design recently, so that sounds a little bit weird to say considering the fact that it is a place for dead people, but regardless, it kind of has been. If you have enjoyed this tutorial, please do remember to hit that like button, as it really helps me and the channel out very, very much. If you're new around here, please do consider subscribing and clicking the little bell next to the subscription button. That'll ensure that you get all of my videos sent directly to your sub box. And if you want to make anything else by me, check out the card system and the description below. I don't often do this, but this build in particular would go very, very well with the build next to it, which is a church. That's why I've made both of these back to back, week after week. The graveyard could be attached to the church rather easily, directly next to it, on the side, or kind of how I have it now with perhaps a road in between. But where there's a church, typically speaking, there's not really too far a graveyard. So that's what I'd recommend. I'd recommend having them both together if you like, or they can be made independently of each other, of course. There's plenty of circumstances in which the two are mutually exclusive. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.